You know, when the great Mike Bossy died of cancer this week, many fans of the Islanders thought back to the 4 Stanley Cup championships he brought back to Long Island, the fact the team almost won 5 straight cups, the fact he's probably the best goal scorer of all time. My thoughts went back to that, but also how he ended up being drafted very late in the 1977 NHL entry draft, where every team had a chance to take Bossy, but only the Islanders wanted to take a solid chance at him. So today we're going to be talking about the early years of Mike Bossy, which led to his draft. There's no way that any podcast can do justice to Bossy's full resume. So today we're just going to be talking about his pre-NHL years and what led to him being drafted. A little bit of controversy as well. So for a lot of people, Mike Bossy, again, is the best hockey player ever to score 50 goals in NHL. And here's why. Because the natural aspect of his game, he didn't need players feeding him on the time. He found a way to score. Now, born in Montreal, he was a right winger, 6 feet, 186. He played 5 years with Laval of the QMJHL. Now, he broke in with Montreal Bourassa of the Quebec AAA League, playing Laval for 4 games in 73 with a goal and 2 assists. And here he gets freaky, ladies and gentlemen. The 4 years before he was drafted, the numbers were outstanding. 118 points in 74, 70 goals. 149 points in 75, 84 goals. 136 points in 76, 79 goals. And 126 points and 75 goals in 61 games. So you're saying to yourself, how in the name of God was this guy not the number 1 prospect in the NHL draft in 77? He was a QMJHL's Bergeron Trophy winner as Rookie of the Year in 74, Selke Trophy winner, Most Gentlemanly Player in 77, a QMJHL All-Star First Team in 75, a QMJHL West All-Star First Team in 76, a QMJHL All-Star Second Team in 77, and that year he was with captain. He holds the Laval record for most career goals with 309, and he was the QMJHL goal leader with 84 in 75. Now, he entered the draft preview as the Q's number 3 prospect in the 77 NHL draft. He set a Q record since broken for goals in a season by a rookie with 70 in 74. His 309 career goals left him 5 shy of Guy Lafleur's Canadian Major Junior and Quebec Major Junior records for career goals, and I think it's since been broken. He also once scored 170 goals in a season of Pee Wee hockey. So you're saying to yourself, how in the hell does he drop to number 15? Well, here's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Back in the day, and Bob Sirois has talked about in his book, if it's not a Quebec Major Junior Hockey League superstar, they weren't drafted so high. The reason why he dropped, because basically people believe that the league was porous, and that's why he scored so many goals. But let's look at this for a second. Now, Bossy came from a big family. He was the 5th son among 10 children, and grew up in a family of Red Wings fans in the parish of St. Alphonse, in the Ontis, Cacheville area of Montreal. Very beautiful. Now, Bossy attended the St. Pius X Comprehensive High School, which was then the Laval Catholic High School. His mother, Dorothy, was English, and his father, Borden, who maintained a backyard ice rink at their apartment building, was Ukrainian. When he was 12, Bossy broke a kneecap while competing in long jump in school, later developing chronic knee problems during his hockey career, which eventually acerbated the end of his career. As a youth, he played in the 69 Quebec International Pee Wee Tournament with a minor hockey squad from Montreal. He started his junior career again with Laval of the Quebec Major League at the age of 15. Now, despite scoring 309 goals in 5 seasons, he was considered not rugged enough and defensively weak by NHL scouts. Well, someone could protect him, and the Islanders were a rough team. Now, his total of 532 points remains a QMJHL record, and his 309 goals is a record for all of Major Junior. Now, Bossy's number 17 is retired by my hometown Acadie Bathurst Tita, the current incarnation of the former Laval franchise. So if you go into rafters and batters, you can see Mike's number. And when you look at that in batters, all my friends up home, I want you to think about what I'm going to say right here. Now, Bossy, who had averaged 77 goals per season in junior with Laval, was passed over by 12 teams in the NHL amateur draft for 77, including the Rangers and Toronto Maple Leafs, who passed over him twice. Toronto expected him to hold out for more than he wanted to pay, according to Bossy, while the Rangers opted for highly ranked Lucien Deblois and Ron Duguay. Other teams passed for various reasons. The Buffalo Sabres took Rick Sealing, preferring his checking ability, while the Cleveland Barons, who had the 5th overall pick, passed when Bossy's agent, Pierre Lacroix, gave the Barons inflated salary requirements, prompting them to select Mike Crombeen instead. Now, Scotty Bowman, coach of the Montreal Canadiens, later regretted that Montreal had passed on Bossy. Bowman and his assistant Claude Well had each been impressed with Bossy's play and scoring in person, but team scouts questioned his toughness, and the Canadiens took Mark Napier with their first pick instead. Now, Mark was involved at the time in the Birmingham Bulls of the WHA. Now, let's look at the 77 draft very quickly, and it gives you a reason why Bossy wasn't being drafted, because maybe he couldn't afford him, or maybe there was too many players that were just as good as him that year. Number 1 draft pick that year was Dale McCourt, great prospect, played with Team Canada Juniors. Barry Beck, number 2, big, solid defenseman. Robert Picard, who really didn't work out the NHL like they thought, but a solid defenseman, played with Montreal and Toronto. Jerry Gillis, Mike Crombeen, Doug Wilson, which one of the best defenders ever. Brad Maxwell, a competent defenseman, good two-way player. Then Lucien Deblois, Scott Campbell, Mark Napier, the great John Anderson, taken by the Maple Leafs. Trevor Johansson, another big pick, that Toronto was a good defense with Toronto. Ron Duguay, then Rick Sealing, then Bossy. Now, Montreal took Normand Dupont, 18 overall. Now, can you blame Montreal for not taking Bossy? Well, nobody was taking Bossy. And as soon as Bossy arrived in New York, we knew something was going to be going on here. But the Hockey Hall of Fame member, the big problem he had was like word of mouth that worked against him. Once he got the NHL, he showed exactly what he can do, and that's what happened. Now, I think what really happened really worked to his advantage. He was put immediately on the Islanders' top line with Brian Trottier and Clark Gillies. Billy Harris was a good player, but couldn't compare to Bossy for goal-scoring skills. Now, this created a new combination that came to be known as a trio grande, in my opinion, the second best line in NHL history, behind Châtelamer and Lafleur. And let me tell you something, the trio grande, soon as he hit the ice running, now there was a Hockey Night in Canada game, playing Toronto, and the announcers basically said, this is the biggest mistake of the year Toronto made by not drafting Mike Bossy. Now, by February of 78, he was scoring at will, and on February 25th, he had his 45th goal of the season, to pass the previous rookie record held by the great Richard Batak, God bless his soul as well. Now, Bossy had boldly told Bill Torrey before the season he would score 50 and wound up with a total of 53, setting a rookie record which stood until broken by Timo Solani in 93. He led the league, get this, in 25 power play goals, won the Calder, and was named a second-team All-Star. And he also played as a starting right wing for the Campbell in the 78 NHL All-Star game. Now, was Mike Bossy discriminated against because he was playing in the Q? Was he discriminated against because he knew how much he was worth? Was he discriminated against because Laval was sort of a smaller market than the other Q teams? Yes, and yes. Mike Bossy, I saw Mike Bossy play in highlights, of course, but Laval played him the best. He had good line mates, good teammates. Soon as he arrived with the Islanders, and I guess he was training camp, and he basically was saying, you put me on the big line and I'm going to produce. He could have scored 60 goals that year, ladies and gentlemen. I know for a fact. In one game, I saw him miss 3 empty nets against Boston because, his skill wasn't there. But like I said, I don't remember any people in the NHL really stopping him. You know how you can intimidate a player of that size. But Mike Bossy was a gentleman. Mike Bossy was a good teammate. Mike Bossy was determined to play the best of his ability like he played in the Q. And ladies and gentlemen, I have only seen 3 players in that era better than Bossy. It was Gretzky, Guy Lafleur, and Mario. So you take that as it is. Now, if Mike Bossy would ever played with a bigger team like Boston or Philadelphia or Montreal, I'm not saying this to be negative, but the Islanders are not the media center of New York. It's the Rangers, right? So he was playing almost in near anonymity until they made it into playoffs. But until he arrived, the Islanders weren't ready to be Stanley Cup champions. And Stan Fischler said the famous quote. They asked him, he was doing color in between periods for the Islanders, and what the announcer said, when will the Islanders win the cup? He looked at his watch and he said, well, very soon. And within a year and a half, 2 years of being drafted, they're all the way beating the Flyers in 1980. Amazing. And what an amazing era. So Mike Bossy's passing, what a loss for the hockey world. And like I said in the previous podcast, if you want to listen to that, I consider him one of the greatest Canadian athletes of all time. He could have done much more if not the injuries would have taken him out. But you see, chronic knee injuries, even from youth or arthritis, can really impact a player when they have to change their life when they turn in their 30s. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is our latest Sports File podcast on Mike Bossy. If you like what we're doing here, give us a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any memories of the big man, let us know. And to all the Islander faithful, you have my condolences, because you're only as good as the teams you play against. And Trottier, Bossy, Gillies, Nystrom, Tonelli, if the Montreal Canadiens were going to be succeeded by any team, I'm glad it was the Islanders, because the Edmonton Oilers didn't work. The first years they came in with Gretzky, they didn't work hard. The Islanders, from top to bottom, one of the hardest working NHL teams of all time. And I don't know exactly what happened before Bossy. Maybe it was the Billy Harris thing. He couldn't fill out the big line. And Bossy, when you see the pieces fit, if you go to the dance floor and a beautiful woman, she can't dance, she's stepping on your feet. You dance with an ugly woman, she's a perfect dancer. The right fit can do a lot, doesn't it? And keep you emotionally, into what you need to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. Happy Easter, everybody. Say hi to the bunnies for me. And don't forget, if you feel like eating another piece of chocolate on Easter weekend, you might as well, because what's going on in the world nowadays, you need as much chocolate you can as a stress reliever. Thanks for listening. Bye.